way too early for this, but these are my season predictions for the upcoming NHL season. And it's too early because, I mean, we don't know yet where Jack Eichel is going to end up, because he still could probably play the second half of the season, maybe. I don't know. It's possible he doesn't play at all. But I don't have him really on any team. I'm not predicting him going anywhere. So that's one thing that I'm not predicting. But the latest news I've seen so far is that Alex Chason is trying out for the Canucks. And yesterday Kaprizov signed with the Wild. I'm just anticipating that Brady Tkachuk will end up with the Senators, and that Pettersson and Hughes will end up on the Canucks. So with that, these are my still too early predictions for the season, but these are my predictions. I'm going to go through my predicted standings first, and I'm going to go who is 32nd, 31st. I'm going to go in that order, even though I've got these still divided by division, so you can see where the playoff line is. This might be a little bit crazy, by the way. I'm sure a lot of people will find this crazy. But what's not crazy is I still believe, of course, Buffalo will be last. I do really think Buffalo will end up last. Their team looks really bad. I'm sure they really want to grab Shane Wright. I feel like they wouldn't. I don't know. You never think that the players really want to bomb the season, but I'm sure management does. And we'll see. We'll see. But I do think Buffalo will end up in 32nd. In 31st, a team that I have really not been impressed with ever since they, lost Pavelski, or parted ways with Pavelski, and now you know who it is. San Jose, they just have not looked very good since they lost Pavelski and that great leadership that he had. And it just, looking at their roster, it does not look great. And it's a team that, like, if their good players can play really well, they can do really well. Like, if Carlson plays at, the level that we've seen him play before, oh man. But that's not what I'm predicting, at least. I think San Jose will be 31st. In 30th, I have Anaheim. They're not looking too amazing this season, and so I have them there. And then at 28, a team that I'm really just not that impressed with. I know they made some really good moves, but a team I'm not very impressed with is the Devils, and so I have them down at 29th. I don't think they'll be too good. And the Metro is kind of a weird division in how could it go? It could go so many different ways. It really could. And I have the Devils at 29th. At 28th, a team that on paper looks worse than most of these, except for maybe Buffalo. But I think sometimes, the teams that look the worst on paper, they're not necessarily the ones who will end up doing the worst. I still have them low, but at 28 I have the Arizona Coyotes. Again, they don't look like they're going to do very well, but I think they'll do a little bit better than people are expecting. I think they'll go up to 28th place here. Still last in the Central, but better than some of the other teams in the league. At 27th place, a team that they could do a lot better. They have the potential to do a lot better. To maybe very, I think it's very unlikely, but they might make a playoff spot. I'm not predicting that. I'm not predicting a playoff spot for them, and that is the Ottawa Senators. I don't see them doing quite good enough. They got a lot of good talent there. I don't quite think it'll be enough this year, especially with the way the Atlantic looks and being back in the Atlantic. I think it'll be tough for the Senators to rise to the occasion this year. What am I at? 26. Who did I put in 26? I forget. I think. Oh yes, Columbus. Columbus. I I don't have as far back as some people because I think they won't be that bad. But of course, I do think that they will still be pretty low, and so I have them here at 26th. The 25th, this is where maybe things get a little crazy, but this is a team that I know, despite what they've done a couple of years ago, a team that I really have like the least amount of confidence in, and I just feel like I just don't see them doing well this year. And that is the Dallas Stars. Yeah, I have them pretty low, I know. The Central looks interesting, but yeah, Dallas, I'm not too high on right now. In 24th place, who do I have in 24th? Let me think, because I'm going off of the PowerPoint here, and so sometimes I don't actually remember who's coming up next exactly, because I'm wondering if this is where I put one of the big, I guess you could call it a controversial pick. I guess we'll just see. I should stop delaying. Oh no, it's Montreal, like Canadien de Montréal. I think that they are not going to do quite what they did last year. I mean, they barely snuck into the playoffs anyway. And over an 82-game season, I don't think that they're going to do too good, especially in the Atlantic. And losing guys like Deneau, I know they've got some nice additions. Maybe if they end up with Jack Eichel and Jack Eichel can play for them in the second half of the season, maybe they can move up. I don't know. They're one of the favorites to get him, but we don't know where Jack Eichel's going yet. Maybe as soon as I post this, we'll know. But yeah, for now I got Montreal right here at 24th. 23rd is the one that I think might be a little controversial. But I would not be surprised, and I'm predicting the Edmonton Oilers down in 6th in the Pacific. I feel like they're going to have another bad year, another year where they struggle, and I just really detest the moves that they've made over the offseason. I know that might not be make or break. They might still make the playoffs. They might still be second, like some people are predicting, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of their goaltending. I'm not a fan of what they did in the offseason. I'm not a fan of the Edmonton Oilers. I'm really not. So I think they're going to be low. 22nd, I have Detroit, still low. And in fact, you're going to see a big division here between the bottom four in the Atlantic and the top four. I think the top four are very, very clear in the Atlantic, and I think the bottom four are, well, I think they're clear. I mean, anything can happen, right? You know, predictions always seem to go out the window. But I've got Detroit at 22nd. I love their moves on the offseason. I love them getting Ned, and I see them moving up a bit. I know they might not have quite as strong of a roster as Montreal, and maybe not even as Ottawa. But that's the thing, is like on paper, teams don't perform like they seem like they would on paper, right? Like, or in reality, teams don't perform quite like they do, or quite like they seem they would on paper. And so that's what I'm kind of going with, you know, Edmonton being lower, Dallas being lower, Detroit being lower, or higher, I guess, than most people would have them. That's how I'm going to make my prediction, is like, you know, on paper teams look like this, but I think Detroit could do quite well. I think they could move up. I'm not saying that they're going to be in the top four in their division, but I think they'll be good. I think they'll still be quite good. In 21st place, I have Minnesota. So despite them signing Kaprizov and that whole thing being over with, I still don't see Minnesota making the playoffs this time. I want to be wrong. I love the Wild. I really hope they're in there, but I don't know. I'm not totally sold on them. In 20th position, I have Winnipeg. This is another big one that might be a little controversial. I don't know, but I don't know. Sometimes teams. This is one of those things where there are teams that are going to shockingly miss the playoffs, and for me, a team that might do that, I think, will be the Jets. But again, like the Wild, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Jets do well. I hope Hellebuck has a really, really, really good season, and that their defense holds up and all that stuff. Anything can happen, but this is my prediction, even though I hope it's not what happens. And with that, in 19th place, a team that I think is very, very, very underrated this season. I don't think they're going to do as bad as people think, because even though they lost, a very big piece of their defense, I think they're still fine. I think they still have an amazing defense. And this is where things get a little crazy, I guess, because I have 5 teams in the Pacific making the playoffs, which means Nashville, I think they'll be 19th. I think they'll do better than people think. I think Nashville will be almost fine, but they are moving down, because I think at number 18, I think the Kings are going to have a really good season, and there you get the gold trim, which means you're a playoff team in my predictions. So, yeah, I'm really thinking LA with their moves that they've done. I think that they're actually going to be quite good, and the Rising Stars. I actually think LA is going to go above and beyond and do quite well. And at 17, another team that I'm not sure about this, but there's this feeling that I get that Fleury is going to do very, very well, and because of Fleury, the Blackhawks are going to make the playoffs. As you can see, wow, the Western Conference is not looking as good as the East. I think the East is way, way, way better. I think the West, there's a couple teams that might dominate it, but I'm not. Other than that, I don't really think the West is going to be that amazing. So, yeah, the West, not looking good. Chicago here at 17th, but I like their moves. I mean, Seth Jones, we'll see what he does. I may not like every part of their moves, but grabbing Fleury, I just have this feeling that Fleury is going to make the playoffs, and he's just going to have another tremendous season. Last year he was the Vezina winner, and I think deservedly so. He's been so good, and I think he follows that up in Chicago. It might be his last year, but I think he's got some playoffs in him. I think they're making the playoffs, and so yeah. At 16, we finally have another Metro Division team. I've got the Rangers at 16th. I don't know if they're quite. They do look good on paper, but I don't know if they look quite good enough in terms of the Metro Division. And this is interesting because you got 18th place and 17th place not making the playoffs, according to me. Who am I, right? This is likely all wrong, but it would be interesting if it happened, because I think the East is way better, and I think New York doesn't quite have what it takes. I mean, this is where they would be upset, because them not making it, if they were in the West, they would, but I don't think they quite have what it takes this year to make the playoffs in the Metro, and I want to be wrong about that too. The teams that I have higher in the Metro, I'm not necessarily wanting them to do quite well compared to the Rangers. I'd love to see the Rangers do well and make the playoffs, and we'll see what happens, but right now I have them at 16th. And then at 15th, here we go again. Welcome back to the Pacific, which I don't think will be the worst division, but I think will be the second worst. And that's Vancouver. And this is me being an optimist. I think Edmonton and Vancouver's place could switch, and I might be putting Vancouver in Edmonton's place, maybe because I'm a Vancouver fan and this is the bias coming out, but I think Vancouver could do well, and I think they could be very, very good. They have very good scoring. Hopefully that Demko bounces back and has very good goaltending. Vancouver's defense is, of course, what worries me, and seeing how OEL will do that, I'm not sure about that. It could work out very well, but it might not. I'm kind of leaning toward, it'll work very well. I'm an optimist, but we'll see. Edmonton and Vancouver could easily trade places. I think LA will be either in the playoffs or right just outside. I think LA is going to do well, but I think Edmonton could switch with Vancouver. But right now, I'm a little bit high on Vancouver. I think that we're going to have a good season. So yeah. And then at 14, another team that most people don't have making the playoffs, but I look at their lineup and I think, you know what? Like, we didn't think Vegas was going to do anything. I think Seattle will be better than people think. I think they're going to be a playoff team. Maybe they won't be third, but I have them here at third in the Pacific, and I think the Kraken will do well. I think they'll do quite well in their inaugural season. I really do think they'll make the playoffs, especially in the Pacific. I look at Anaheim and San Jose, and I think they're not going to do too well. And then I look at the other teams, and I'm like, Seattle could totally be better than them, except for the one that is probably going to destroy the Pacific that I have at the top of the Pacific. We haven't got there yet, but you can probably imagine who that would be. But yeah, I think Seattle will do quite well. In 13th place, this is another one where between 13th and 12th place, I just really wasn't sure, because I don't think the Hurricanes will be too bad. I know their offseason moves have been very, very questionable, like getting rid of Mrazek or losing Mrazek, getting rid of Nedeljkovic, and having Freddie Anderson and Ranta. I don't know, but I can see them making the playoffs. I really can. Like, they still look like a very solid team. Like their forwards, their defense, it looks pretty solid. It does, but their goaltending, I'm like, Freddie Anderson, yeah, he could bounce back. He could. Like, he's been a very, very good goalie before for Toronto, but I'm not sure about them. I kind of was debating whether to have them 12th or 13th in a playoff spot or not, but because of a certain pattern, I put at number 12 in a playoff spot Philly, because they're due. Like, it's amazing to look at their playoff history and see them miss and then make it and then miss and then make it and then miss and then make it, and it's just one and then the other and then the other, and then it's just alternating playoffs and not playoffs. And I think that won't be broken this year. I think Philly will make it in. That's my prediction. And so because of that, I have Carolina getting bumped out a little bit there. But that's just what I think about Philly. That's what I think anyway. In 11th place, they should, unless there's 5 Metro teams. I don't have that because I still think Toronto is going to make the playoffs. They should make the playoffs, right? They can't be that disappointing, right? Like, they've got to make the playoffs. I think Toronto will make it in. I think they're still a very good team. They even go on a run in the playoffs if they finally break the, do you call it a curse? Break through and make it through the first round. I think they could go on a run. I think they are still a very good team. Marner, Matthews are still great players. Campbell in net, and I believe Mrazek. I think, I think they will be fine. But I still have them in 4th because I do think the Atlantic is just very, very, very good. I think the Atlantic is just, a very difficult team to move up further than that in. And I think the top 3 in the Atlantic will be very, very, very close. But first, in 10th place, I have the New York Islanders. I think the Islanders will be fine. I think they'll do well in the playoffs. But the regular season, the Islanders aren't always, the best of the best. And so I think they're still 3rd in the Metro. I think that's a good place for them. And I think they'll still be strong. I think they'll still make the playoffs for sure. And them being 10th doesn't really speak to how good of a team I think they are. It's just how good of a, regular season team that I think that they are. And so I think they'll be 3rd in the Metro, 10th in the league. At number 9, I wasn't sure, but I looked at the roster again, and I thought, you know what? These guys, if Bennington is on point, St. Louis can be very good. I mean, I'm not sold on the strength of the Central. I'm really not. I'm really not sure how that's going to go in the Central. The Central is going to be a toss-up, just like the Metro. But I can see St. Louis coming in second. I think they will, based on looking over their roster again. And again, I know the roster's not everything. On paper isn't everything, and I know there's some teams that have good teams on paper that I've kind of dropped a little lower because, again, predictions. Nobody's, well, maybe somebody. Nobody's going to be fully right, but I just think, like, a lot of times if you just go by what's on paper, like, you're really not going to be right. And so that's why I'm taking some risks here. But I do feel like St. Louis will be back in the playoffs. I really do. But we'll see. If they're not, no big deal. For me, at least. I mean, for their fans, I'm sure they're tired of that. I mean, they're not the defending Stanley Cup champions, but they're the ones who have won it in the last full NHL season that we had. And so, I mean, over an 82-game season, I don't know if they'll be quite as good as last time, but I think they'll be fine. I think they'll make it. At number 8, I have Calgary. I think Calgary will do quite well. I think people are kind of sleeping on Calgary and underestimating them because of the last year for sure, but 2 years ago they weren't like 2019. 2019 they had this amazing season, and now they have Markstrom. And so if Markstrom has a very good year, their defense comes together. I know they lost Giordano, but I don't know. I feel like Calgary can do very, very well. And, Gaudreau waking up, some of their other players waking up a little more. I think they can do quite well, and that's what I predict. I think they'll be second. At number 7, I have the Washington Capitals, another playoff team for sure, with the gold trim. Washington, I don't know much about what to do with them, but I think they'll be good again. They haven't really done too much in the offseason, but I think they'll be good. I think they'll be good. I think they'll be a playoff team. So I have them second in the Metro. And then at 6, our division winner, I have Pittsburgh. I got Pittsburgh in first in the Metro. I think Pittsburgh will be good. I think Crosby and Malkin will be good. And goaltending, I don't know. That's the question mark. They could be way down. They could be out of the playoffs. But I'm kind of looking at last year and I'm thinking, I think Pittsburgh is actually going to be quite good again in the regular season. And so that's where I have them first in the Metro. At number 5, this is another one that might be questionable, but 5, 4, and 2 are very, very close. I think they'll be like very few points away from each other. But I do have Tampa at 5th. I do have Tampa at 3rd in the Atlantic. That's just speaking to their regular season, right? Even though they have Kucherov back, I think that they'll be very, very good. I don't think they'll go quite as all out as they did back in 2019 where they got swept. I think Tampa likes, not being the President's Trophy, the favorite. I don't know. I could be wrong. I mean, every team wants to win. I'm sure they would not be complaining if they got the President's Trophy, and they wouldn't be quite the same as they were in 2019, just thinking they're the best. Right? They would have learned from that. But I still kind of think Tampa won't be the tops in their division. And so I have them here right under the Boston Bruins, who I think are going to be still very, very good. I know they don't. Oh, I don't know. They might have Rask. They might have Rask back. I'm not sure if that's completely out the window yet. But I think Boston is just so solid that even if you don't think about the goaltending, which might be pretty good, I'm not sure. But even if you don't think about the goaltending, I think they're solid all around apart from that. And I think they'll be very, very good. And I think their top players like Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak, I think they're going to be on fire this year. I think they're going to have a very good year. And I think that's going to really help propel Boston. But again, I don't know what the points difference. I'm not going to predict a points difference really, but 1 or 2 points ahead of Tampa. I think Tampa's very, very close. Maybe even the same amount of points, and one just has that extra OT win or whatever. But anyway, so that's what I have, or not extra OT win, extra regulation win, I should say. But anyway, so that's what I have there. For fourth. And for third, we're going back to the Western Conference. I've got division winner Colorado. I've got Colorado in third. I think Colorado's going to do a lot, but I think I don't know. I think Kemper will be very good. That's the one thing where I'm kind of like, I'm not sure. The defense should be good, right? They should be. But I still think Colorado is going to be, one of the top teams, one of the contenders, and I just have them in third here because I really think, okay, this is number 2 here. I think Florida is going to have an amazing season. I know, looking at their team on paper, things are either going to be really, really good and they're going to be amazing, or the opposite's going to happen. The bottom's going to fall out. They have lots of good forwards, but what will the defense be like? What will the goaltending be like? That's kind of the question mark. I'm picking Florida to be amazing. I think Florida will be very, very good. I think Spencer Knight is going to step up. I think Bobrovsky will be good. I think Spencer Knight will probably take the starting role and will be very, very good. And I think they're going to just floor it. And again, just not very many points between them and Tampa and Boston. Those 3 teams, Tampa, Florida, Boston, at the top of the Atlantic, I think that they will be extremely close, within just a few points of each other. But I'm going to say Florida takes it, just like they almost did last season. I know Tampa was missing Kucherov, but I think it'll be similar. So, and then that makes, y'all know who number 1 is. So we got Florida, the Eastern Conference champions, and then we've got our Western Conference champions, the President's Trophy winners, in my opinion, the Vegas Golden Knights. I think Vegas just has either the easiest or the second easiest division. I think they're just going to destroy it. I think they're going to wreck those teams in the Pacific. Even though some of them are going to do well, I think, LA is going to do well, Seattle's going to do well. I look at Anaheim and San Jose and I'm just like, man, I think Vegas is just going to feast. So, yeah, not too surprising. But let's move on to the awards. So these are the standings. Let's move on to the regular season awards. And the Hart Trophy, I'm going to say Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, could be McDavid, but because I'm predicting Oilers not to be so good, I don't have McDavid as the Hart Trophy winner. I'm going to go with a team that does well and a player that I think will be monstrous this season. I think Nathan MacKinnon will have a very good season and do very, very well in Colorado there. The Art Ross, though, I still got McDavid getting the Art Ross. I think he'll still lead the league in scoring. I'm not getting too crazy there. Rocket Richard, Matthews could. I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to say Pasternak. I'm going to go with David Pasternak. Again, predicting the Bruins to do well. I think Pasta is going to do well, and I think he's going to score a lot of goals. I think he'll hit 50. Matthews could also hit 50. I mean, he's not going to be able to feast on the Canadian teams like he did last year, but at the same time, the year before, when he was in his same division, the Atlantic, he also put up a lot of goals, and so I think Matthews can get close to 50 for sure. I definitely do. But I still have Pasternak. I still have Pasternak as the goal-scoring leader for the 2021-22 season. Vesna, I kind of wanted to go with a goalie that I thought would be on a very good team, and I'm going to go with Leonard. I'm going to go with Robin Leonard. Now, part of me wants to see Vegas not do very well, not because of Leonard at all, just because they got rid of Fleury in the way that they did. But I feel like Vegas is going to do well, and I feel like Leonard is going to do well. I think he'll have a very good season as long as he doesn't get into, too many shootouts, but I don't think that'll happen. I don't think the teams in the Pacific will get them to too many shootouts, so I think Leonard. I'll go with Leonard. Who knows what the Vezina will be? I mean, Art Ross and Rocket Richard are those trophies that are a little bit easier to predict, but we'll see. I'm going Leonard anyway. Norris. I have what almost everyone else has, I think. I think. It's possible that I don't. It's possible that most people are going with Hedman. I'm going to go with Cale Makar. I think Cale Makar is one of the most amazing defensemen. I know he's got one that gets a lot of points as well, which is a lot of the time what people look at for the Norris. They look at offense as well as defense, and sometimes mostly offense, right? You're probably not going to see Jacob Slavin winning the Norris, but I got Makar, and I just think Makar is amazing. I think... I'm very impressed with Makar. He's one of the most exciting players to watch, and I think, he definitely will at least be in the top 3 for Norris, but I think he'll win it. Selke, I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure. I just kind of looked at some of the people who had been kind of up at the top of the votes in the last couple years, and Mark Stone seems to be one of them, and so I'm kind of like, I'm predicting Vegas to do very well. I think Mark Stone will do very well. I think he'll play very well. And so, why not? I'll just give it to him. And then Calder. Lots of people are thinking Cole Caulfield. But with me predicting Montreal not to do as well. A lot of people are saying Zegras as well. And with Anaheim not doing well. I mean, they could, right? Even if they don't do well. I'm going with my team that I think is going to maybe not surprise people, but do better than people think. I'm going to go with Byfield out of LA. That's my choice. I'm still not sure, but that's what I'll go with. So, now, if it wasn't early enough to go and predict the regular season, I'm also going to predict the playoffs. Let's go. So, with those standings that I've picked out, this is what the playoff picture would look like. I know they're kind of close together, but it would be Vegas against LA. Calgary would face off against the Kraken. That would be really cool. I just feel like those jerseys together would look really cool. Colorado and Vancouver would be not good for Vancouver, but that's what it would be. And St. Louis and Chicago, which I didn't think of before, but that's a very classic rivalry from back in the day, the 80s and 90s, and honestly probably the 70s and late 60s as well. But anyway, that would be that. Florida would be matched up with Philly, Boston with the Lightning, which would be quite something, I think. Pittsburgh and Toronto, which would also be quite something, and Washington and the Islanders would be matched up together. And so, let's see. Going with Vegas and LA, I really don't think I could see LA winning it, but stranger things have happened. But I'll still go Vegas. Calgary, Seattle, of course, it would be nice. It would be really cool to see the Kraken against the other new team, the Knights, the other newest expansion team. But I'm going Calgary with this one because I think if Calgary does well, I think they'll do very well. Colorado and Vancouver, I'm going Colorado. I'd love to see Vancouver and seeing Demko in the playoffs against Vegas a couple years ago, or I guess that was just last year technically. But that was something else. I don't even know if has it been 1 year yet? Yeah. Yeah. We're mid-September now. Yeah, it has been a year, but just barely since Demko against the Golden Knights. That was that was what it was. It was the Golden Knights versus Thatcher Demko. But anyway, and then Blues and Hawks. I think if Fleury has a very good season, I think that Fleury will also have a very good first round, and so I have Chicago moving on from that matchup. And yeah, looking at the other side, Florida and Philly, that could be very interesting and tight. And of course, everything is just depending on Florida being as good as I think they can be. Like if Florida reaches their potential, like they are going to be very, very good, and I think they'll rival Tampa. But I still think that that's going to be the case, and I think that they will move on. And by the way, I'm not as big of a fan of the Stoic Panther logo, so I'm using this. That's why I'm using this. I'm like, this is the best Florida logo. I'm using this. I'm not using the best logo for every team, but for Florida, I'm doing it. Because I think out of any team that needs to change their logo, I think Florida is the one that needs to change back the most. That's my opinion. But anyway, yep. So Boston and Tampa Bay, I really think it'll be good, but I really do think, again, Tampa Bay is so good, and I don't think they're going to have a first round exit, especially after their back-to-back Stanley Cups. Now, the interesting thing about Tampa is, you wonder, like, is that going to fatigue them? Like, they're such a good team, you wouldn't quite think so. Like, fatigue them in a way where they would, not be quite as good this year. Because, yeah, they've played more hockey than anybody else. Like, they really have. And lately. So you wonder about that a little bit, but I still think Tampa's going to be amazing. I think they're going to be fine in the first round, and so, yeah, I think that they're going to take out Boston there. Pittsburgh and Toronto, sorry to all Toronto fans, but I would take Pittsburgh in this, and that does depend on goaltending. I think Toronto could easily feast on them, and that might be a good matchup. That might be a good matchup for Toronto. But yeah, Jari, DeSmith. I think because Pittsburgh did so well last year, and failed in the playoffs, I think Pittsburgh will do really good again this year, despite it being Jari and DeSmith. But I think they can win against Toronto. I think they can do a lot better. I don't know if I fully saying Jari will bounce back, but I think he'll be a lot better, at least, than he was last year. And Washington Islanders. Sorry to Washington again, another first-round exit, but Islanders are a very good playoff team, and Trotz against his old team. I think Trotz wins. I think Trotz is such a good coach, and I think that'll do all the difference for the Islanders. Now, Vegas-Calgary. We've got to have upsets, right? There's always some. The last 2 years we've had very odd finalists, and so, am I going to do that again? I don't know, but I think there's got to be upsets, right? Like Vegas-Colorado in the conference finals, is that actually going to happen? I'm going to take Calgary. That might be crazy. I'm going to take Calgary. I think everyone talks about Colorado kind of being chokers. I think Vegas has been worse. Vegas lost against Montreal, whereas they beat Colorado. Yeah, I don't know. Vegas almost lost to Vancouver, and then they lost to Dallas. Although Dallas did beat Colorado, but the goaltending situation there, I don't know. Anyway, I'd have to look at more before I say more. But I just feel like I expect Colorado to, win. Oh, there you see Florida. Oh, no. So, yeah, I have Florida winning. I have Colorado winning. I'll get to that in a sec. But I think Colorado is going to do a lot better this year. I think they're going to break through, and I think I have way more faith in them breaking through than I do with Vegas breaking through. And I just feel like Vegas is especially with losing Fleury. Can Leonard bring them all the way there? I mean, I'm sure he'll have a very good season and a Vezina winning season at that. But I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. And then over here, I do have the Panthers winning. Tampa, I think, will finally run out. I think that'll be an amazing series once again. 7 games, maybe even. But then maybe we'll have Stamkos in 7 games, like he was before these last 2 times. A Stamkos Game 7 there. Although, I mean, if Kucherov is on fire, do you even need Stamkos, right? And we found that out in 2020. Do you even really need Stamkos? In some ways, but maybe not on the score sheet, you know. So, but I still have Florida finally beating, and I say finally, it's just been 1 year, finally beating Tampa. I think if Florida wins a round, they'll be super good. But I think, you know what? I'll say it right now. No, I won't say it right now. I'll say it later. But anyway, we'll go to Pittsburgh Islanders. I think they'll be. I don't think New York Islanders are going to get to the conference finals 3 years in a row. I just feel like, and maybe next year they'll get back there, and they'll still be a very strong team. I don't know that they'll do 3 in a row. I think Pittsburgh will win it, even though I'm saying like Jari and DeSmith. So it's kind of a weird prediction, but hey, people have been wronger. I said that Montreal was probably the worst choice to say that they even make it out of the first round out of anybody, and they went to the finals. So you know, things can differ. So maybe that's another one of these. Calgary, Colorado. I do see Colorado coming out of that victorious. I think Colorado will be the finalist, and the other finalist I think will be Florida. I think if Florida ends up against anyone else in the conference finals, that they'll win. And so, Colorado, Florida. Does that look familiar? That's 1996. And this time I think Florida will come out on top. And again, that's because I think Florida can potentially easily be the best team. Like, could you imagine Bobrovsky back on his form? I don't know that he will. I think Spencer Knight will be stepping up, and I think Spencer Knight will be very, very good. But the potential that Florida has is unbelievable. And the potential to fail is also pretty unbelievable. But I'm going with they're going to do amazing. They're going to steamroll, and they're going to win. They're going to, you know, they're going to be back to the same time. Or back to what they were kind of like back when they last won a round. Going to the finals, being against Colorado, and this time I think they're going to win. So hopefully, too, with this Panthers logo prediction, I hope they also, sometime during the season, maybe just at the start of the playoffs, they go back to the reverse retro and they wear that as their home jersey and they win the cup at home in that jersey. That would be amazing. I think that'd be awesome. But yeah, I just see Florida as a very kind of polarizing team. They could be very good, they could be very bad, but if they are very good, I think they'll be unbelievable. But I think in this second round, over here, in their second round against Tampa, I think it's actually going to be either Florida or Tampa. I picked Florida. I think if it's not Florida, I think Tampa's going to get to the finals, and I think Tampa probably will three-peat if they make it to the finals. I don't know. It could be the other way. So I'm thinking it's either Colorado, Tampa, or Florida, Tampa. Despite all those things in the standings, I think the final is going to be Colorado, Tampa, or Florida, Colorado, I should say, sorry. Colorado, Florida, or Colorado, Tampa. And I think both times I would think that the Florida team wins instead of Colorado, that Colorado loses. But Colorado could win too, and that would be really awesome, you know. To see McKinnon win, I think that'd be great. Conn Smythe. Might as well. I've predicted all the other awards. Conn Smythe. I'll just say either Barkov or Huberdeau, and I'll say Jonathan Huberdeau. So there you go. Those are my predictions. They're a little wacky. They're a little crazy, but you know what? The way the NHL goes, it's really unpredictable, and so it's too early, I know, and who knows, maybe Jack Eichel will make some differences here. Maybe there'll be other trades at the deadline or before that that'll make a lot of difference as well, because we never know that. Maybe there'll be some injury during the year that'll make a crazy difference as well. We just never know what's going to happen, because it's the NHL. Anything can happen, and that's so nice, and it's nice that last year we had, or I guess it was this year, technically, this past season in the NBA, we finally had, someone unpredictable win. And it was nice to see Giannis win without, going to a super team or whatever. But, yeah, I just think that the NHL always kind of being unpredictable is very good compared to the NBA, which now it seems a little bit more unpredictable. But, yeah, not as unpredictable as the NHL. That's so true. Anything can happen here. Like, could you imagine Tampa Bay missing the playoffs? I can't, but it's possible. Could you imagine Buffalo making the playoffs? I can't imagine that either, but, really it is possible. Although I will say, it is impossible for Buffalo to win the Stanley Cup. I'll say that right here. I don't think that's too bold. I predict that Buffalo will not win the Stanley Cup. There you go. That's it.